NFL now, where the Steelers and the football world, frankly, are waiting for a decision from Aaron Rodgers. Right now, Pittsburgh's quarterback room consists of Skylar Thompson, rookie Will Howard, and QB1 Mason Rudolph. And time is ticking. Mandatory minicamp starts in 3 weeks. So when will we have a decision on Aaron Rodgers? Well, let's bring in NFL insider Jeremy Fowler and NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck now. And Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. What is the latest surrounding Aaron Rodgers and whether or not he's even going to play football this upcoming season?
Well, Shay, people I've checked with say the Steelers remain optimistic here. They have been in touch with Aaron Rodgers, but that there's still no hard and fast update. Clearly, the Steelers are respecting Aaron Rodgers' time. He had alluded in the past on the Pat McAfee show that he had some issues in his inner circle that he wanted to work out. So the Steelers acknowledge that and are aware of those type of situations. So they have May 27th OTAs starting. They would love him there. That gives him 3 weeks to potentially sign there and work out. Now, if we're playing conspiracy theory, as some around the league do, I've checked with some teams who wonder, like, hey, is he waiting on the Minnesota Vikings here? You know, where he would play 9 dome games per season, would have Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell, one of the best play callers in the league. But even checking on that, the Vikings have sort of moved on. They're all in on J.J. McCarthy, so that seems unlikely. It does feel right now like it's Pittsburgh or bust.
Okay, Pittsburgh or bust. Tim Hasselbeck, I ask you, do you expect Aaron Rodgers then to be a Pittsburgh Steelers here in the coming week?
I do. You know, a lot of it is, what Jeremy just talked about in terms of is Aaron Rodgers, thinking about maybe a better situation. So, like, that tells me Aaron Rodgers is thinking about playing football. Aaron Rodgers is also throwing in the offseason. Aaron Rodgers doing those things that, quite honestly, 40-year-old quarterbacks don't do unless they're planning on playing. So between that, the contact with the Steelers, the mutual interest, I think it ultimately ends up happening. I think it's one of the reasons the Steelers have approached the offseason the way that they have. And when you look at their current roster, as we kind of started this segment of who they have, they definitely are planning on going into the season with somebody else in the quarterback room, and that somebody else would be Aaron Rodgers.
I agree with you. You mentioned him throwing in the offseason. Who is he throwing to? Well, someone named DK Metcalf, who now is a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course. In other skill player news, just moments ago, Ravens running back Derrick Henry spoke to the media. Let's hear what he had to say.
Coming off the season I had, I wasn't really happy, and I wanted to prove myself and just get an opportunity, and they gave me that opportunity, and I'm very appreciative of how much they value me to give me an extension. I just want to show them how much it means to me, how much this organization means to me by the way I work and what I do on the field. We accomplished winning the division, got into the playoffs, but ultimately we came up short. So it's a lot of fuel that should go into this season. Guys should be motivated. I'm motivated, and I'm hungry to get ready for the next one.
I see that Prada shirt over there on one Derrick Henry because he just signed a 2-year, $30 million extension, so he can afford shirts like that. Jeremy, what do you think about how Baltimore is going to ultimately use Henry coming into this season?
Well, I'm told that the Baltimore Ravens fully expect Henry to resume his normal workload. They believe he has at least 2 years of prime performance left. That's why they signed him to this deal. He's now under contract for the next 3 years. So last year he averaged about 19 carries per game. I was told from somebody with the team that he could certainly hit or surpass that and have no problem doing so because of the way he keeps himself in shape and how hungry he is. The only thing that could affect that number is they really like Justice Hill, their backup running back. They also like Keaton Mitchell in the fold, Rasheen Ali. So they have a big backfield that they want to get involved, but Henry will remain the bell cow here, no question.
Which he should, right? Tim, what are your expectations for the Ravens offense this season?
I expect them to be awesome. And look, I think the Ravens are in dangerous territory. Investing in an older running back, it typically doesn't work, but every now and then a guy is different. And look, Adrian Peterson was different. I think people agree that Derrick Henry is different. And so I understand it from that perspective, but bigger than Derrick Henry signing is the fact that Lamar Jackson threw 41 touchdown passes last year. Like Lamar Jackson, who people talked about as, well, he's got to develop as a passer. He's done it. He's developed as a passer, and the running hasn't gone away. I think that, look, he's put himself in a situation where, look, you can argue, is it Patrick Mahomes, is it Josh Allen, is it Lamar Jackson, who's the best quarterback in the game? That's fine. You can argue that stuff. But the reality is Lamar Jackson's as good as anybody playing the quarterback position right now. And then the development that's happened, especially under Tom Bakken as their offensive coordinator, to build on that with the way he's elevated the play of the guys around him, I expect Baltimore to be really good on offense. And it's because of number 8 for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, as long as he is under center and he is doing what he does with his feet and his arms, Baltimore and that offense is going to be dangerous. Tim and Jeremy, we appreciate you. Thank you. Let's go to the NFL owner meeting in Minneapolis tomorrow. There is talk about shifting playoff seeding from division winners to records. And our Mike Greenberg, well, he's fired up about it.
I have been arguing for this for 25 years. They're going to vote on redoing how they do the seeding in the playoffs. I am 100% in favor of this idea. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I like anything that makes the regular season more important.
And this would do just that. NFL insider Jeremy Fowler and NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck back with us now on SportsCenter. Jeremy, to you first. You'll be at the NFL owner meetings this week, actually as early as tomorrow in Minneapolis. Greeny obviously very fired up about the potential of playoff reseeding. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Shay, I hate to disappoint Greeny, but from sources I've checked with today, it is considered a long shot for the playoff reseeding format to go through and eventually be changed. There are too many teams that value that division winner getting a high seed or a home game. But I've talked to enough executives around the league who do acknowledge a change needs to come eventually. Maybe this week's meetings will result in something down the road, but most likely it will be tabled at this point unless there's enough convincing to go around that this has to happen. But really the key here is that the change in the 18-game schedule that will probably inevitably happen in the league, whether that's 2028, 2030, whatever year that is, that will definitely spark more change for this. Teams I've talked to believe that it would have to create the lack of meaningless games late in the season. That's really been the issue and why the Detroit Lions have voted for this proposal. You know, they don't want a situation where, like last year, Minnesota went 14-3 and has to play on the road. So enough teams acknowledge that is an issue. Maybe they can create down the road a differential where you can, work it out where division winners are still rewarded. But they feel like the language in this proposal right now probably isn't enough to go through.
Okay, but it is inevitable that maybe the NFL moves to 18 games. If it is adopted, meaning they do reseed for the playoffs, Tim, I'm going to you here. How would that affect the NFL postseason in your mind? Well,
I mean, there's a couple of things like with this. I understand Greeny's point, but, in terms of, making every regular season game more valuable, the divisions matter. Like, I was never on a team where when the coach, set out the goals for the season, he didn't say, number one is, like, our goal is we're going to try to win the division. Because if you win the division, you give yourself a chance and you give yourself an opportunity to host a playoff game. I just don't think it's a good idea to lose that. One of the things that, I think you could argue college football has that pro football doesn't have is the passion of certain rivalries, and the meaning of that. Like, so when you look at NFC East battles or NFC North battles, like things of that nature that, have such a long history and mean so much, I think that matters in the postseason. I think it matters in the regular season, and I think it gives tradition to the National Football League.
Yeah, there's a reason we play all these teams twice, right? Like, there's a division for a specific reason. So that obviously will become a hot button topic. Jeremy, another potential topic this week is the tush push, of course. What are you hearing about the possibility of the league banning the Eagles' signature play?
Well, this one could have momentum. They would need a 24-8 majority vote to push this through. Back in the March owners' meetings, they did not have enough votes. This time they could. I've talked to enough teams who say that they want to get the rugby-style play out of the game. They want a quicker whistle when a player gets upright. They don't want 3, 4, 5 seconds where a whole offensive line and running backs behind a quarterback can push them through. The problem is the way the Packers have proposed this to the league, a lot of teams feel like it's narrow and targeting the Eagles, and nobody wants to punish one team for this. So it's very possible that when the owners get to Minneapolis this week, they're going to tweak this proposal, or the Packers will tweak it to some different language that's more broad around the league where they can try to find a sweet spot and that Philadelphia isn't the one being punished here. So this could look very different 2 days from now, but they have to get the ownership votes, and right now it would take some convincing because they were short 2 months ago.
What it does overall, though, and Tim and I have talked about this, is add a little bit more juice when the Eagles and the Packers play each other this upcoming season. Guys, thank you very much. Offensive threat, practice time adversary. Listen.
He's got a lot of juice. Like he can run all day. A lot of energy. I love it. Good energy. Always dapping guys up, just bringing juice every day. And like I said, high motor, can just go. It's like a kid, just runs around all day. He doesn't get tired, it seems like. So you can't have enough of that. And then as far as just talent, I mean, kind of speaks for himself. Ball skills, run after the catch. He's very explosive. Just didn't realize how explosive he was in and out of cuts. You know, he's impressive to watch.
He is impressive to watch, and Liam Cohen is going to be tasked with turning Trevor Lawrence into a winner. Lawrence has 38 losses in 4 seasons, tied for the third most by a starting quarterback to begin a career since 1950. On the bright side, though, for Lawrence, he's tied with Warren Moon, who went on to become a Hall of Famer. You on SportsCenter, and the Bears enter year 2 with their quarterback of the future, Caleb Williams. However, Caleb didn't initially see his future in Chicago. Excerpts from a new book by ESPN's Seth Wickersham detail how Williams and his family considered several options to avoid going number 1 overall to the Bears. And once he got to Hallis Hall, Williams said none of the coaches helped him watch film. Chicago Bears reporter Courtney Cronin and NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck join us now on SportsCenter. And Courtney, look, the dust has settled a bit since the news broke about the Wickersham book. Walk us through how this situation has now played out in the Bears facility.
Yeah, Shay, I think the most pressing information that came out of Seth's book is what you just referenced, that Caleb said he did not know how to watch film because coaches weren't coaching him on how to do that. And there were breadcrumbs all throughout last season that showed you things were not really on the right track with Caleb Williams and his offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. Like, I go back to week 3 after they lose to the Indianapolis Colts, and it was Williams and the members of the offensive captains, part of the leadership council, that went to Waldron and said,